Hello everyone, thank you for joining this Your Overseas Home webinar. Today we're talking how to buy property in Portugal. My name is Roseanne Bradley. I'm a senior copywriter at Your Overseas Home and Portugal Property Guides. It's great to have you all with us today, whether you're joining live or watching on demand at a later date. So here at Your Overseas Home, we do believe there are 3 essential contacts for a safe and secure overseas home purchase. So Q are 3 expert guests today who each represent one of these contacts. So if you could just give us a little wave when I mention your name. We have Jack Wiggs as trading team leader at Smart Currency Exchange. We have Jamie O'Doherty, sales manager at Olive Homes, and last but not least, Joanna Neto Mestre, a lawyer at Matlaw. So today's webinar is 1 hour long. If you have any questions, please feel free to type your query into the questions tab on the right-hand side of your screen, and I can ask one of our experts on your behalf. If you do need to share anything discussed today or want a reminder of anything, you can share this with family and friends in a replay, which will be available on demand in a few days. So, Jamie, it'd be great if you could please start by giving us an introduction to you and how Olive Homes can help our viewers today.
Okay, so yeah, my name's Jamie O'Doherty. I'm the sales manager here at Olive Homes, and I've lived here in the beautiful Algarve now for 19 years. We help lots of clients right across the Algarve, trying to find the property that suits them in the best way. So I've got knowledge of the whole Algarve, different areas. So we've got something that will suit everyone here in the Algarve. And there's some wonderful things for whether you're a golfer or a sailor, a surfer. There's lots of things here for everyone. So it's a great place to live, and it's a great place to invest in.
Lovely, thank you. And Joanna, do you want to talk about yourself and Matlaw?
Sure, thank you, Rosie. Hi, I'm Joanna. I'm a Portuguese solicitor, a Portuguese lawyer. I am the managing partner of Matlaw, which is a law firm that, since we decided to incorporate it, we are more dedicated to real estate investment and assisting buyers and sellers and tenants and everyone looking to invest in real estate in Portugal. Of course, we do cover all the areas required to do a successful and safe investment, and that comprises the conveyancing, contracting, taxation involved, relocation and residency and immigration, which is a hot topic after Brexit especially became. We can also assist clients with wills and succession, especially in international or where you have assets. When clients have assets in more than one country, that becomes even more important. Corporate law and all the matters involved, but we do have offices in the Algarve, like Olive Homes, and we are also present in Lisbon. We do not limit our practice to Algarve and Lisbon. Of course, our clients are mainly in these 2 regions, which are quite attractive for real estate investment as well. But we do work and we cover the whole territory, including the islands. That's it.
Lovely, thank you. And Jack, can you tell us about yourself and Smart Currency Exchange?
Yeah, of course. Good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, my name's Jack Wiggs. Thanks for the introduction, Rosie. And I'm one of the team leaders on the account management team or trading team at Smart. Smart Currency specialise in overseas property. So our job is to help you understand your options around how to buy your euros and manage your currency exchange risk from a moment you have your offer accepted all the way through to your completion. So partnering up with Smart Currency Exchange, you'll be given your own account manager. He'll take the time to understand your particular circumstances, your particular budgets, your timeframes, and help put a plan in place together so that you aren't exposed to nasty surprises that the currency exchange can bring throughout your time of having your offer accepted.
Lovely, thanks, Jack. So if we start with you and Smart, let's start with why would you recommend that our listeners today use Smart Currency Exchange or a currency specialist over, say, their high street bank?
Yeah, there's a few main reasons. The most important one, in my opinion, is our approach to risk management. So if you think about making an offer in Portugal, again, I'll choose a random number, say £250,000 to £250,000. You make an offer today that you believe is about that, so something like 280,000, 290,000 euros. Once you've made that offer and your offer is accepted, that is the exact amount of euros that you're going to spend on that property. That's not going to change. So where we try and make a difference is that when you have that offer accepted, you are then exposed to currency risk from that moment going forwards. So the amount of pounds and pennies that you're going to spend is going to go up and it's going to go down over the course of the next 3 months. Over a 3-month window, currency exchange will typically fluctuate by on average 5%. So if you're buying a property for what you believe is about 250,000, that can fluctuate by over £10,000 in a 3-month window. So our job is to put together a plan for you to help you mitigate that risk. We've got options in place to completely remove that risk, or to partly remove that risk, or to actually use that risk to try and get a higher exchange rate, all of which your account managers will discuss with you. None of those options are done with a bank. The only way that you'd go and use a bank is you'd go to them a couple of days before your completion and move the money across. And the exchange rate on that day is what it is. That's what you're going to pay for the property. So in my opinion, that is the most important aspect. Service is also critically important. You're going to get your own account manager who's at the end of the phone call. And yeah, we're very, very easily accessible. You'll have access to our calendar, so you can put appointments in yourselves, or you can diarise appointments with your account managers when you speak to them on the phone. And this will give you a more proactive service. They can understand exactly what it is you're needing, and they can carry out that service for you in line with that. So really important. Not only that, but they will have helped probably thousands of clients buying property before. So a big part of what they do is understanding probably the hurdles that you're going to come across, the timeframes that you're going to need work being done for you, and they'll be able to manage your expectations on that side of things. And last but not least is the exchange rate. So typically our exchange rates are between 2 and 3% better than the average high street bank. So if you're buying a property for £250,000, you're going to be saving thousands of pounds on the exchange rate compared to using a bank. So again, another benefit of using a currency specialist other than the high street bank.
Lovely, thanks. That's a really clear way of putting it. So speaking of exchange rates, I'm sure a lot of our watchers today know that the pound shot up against the euro early this week, which basically means that your property that you're buying with Olive Homes is going to cost you less. So Jack, is there a way that buyers can kind of benefit from the current strong pound?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of our most popular options for property buyers is called a forward contract, sometimes positioned as a full hedge. That enables you to lock the exchange rate in for any time frame up to 1 year. Obviously, your account manager's job is to tailor that to your particular needs, i.e. if you've got an offer accepted today and you're completing in 3 months, you probably want to have your contract set for 3 months rather than 12 months. But that will enable you to really fix in the exchange rate where we are at the minute. Nobody knows where exchange rates are going to go. So it's a case of us educating you on where they are at the minute and the potential factors which can come up. But just as importantly, just make sure that you are mitigating and removing that risk as much as possible. So yes, you can take advantage of it. If you want to have a conversation around managing that and actually trying to secure the exchange rates at the minute, then I'd really recommend registering. And if you are already registered with Smart Currency, then having a conversation with your account manager, which you should have already been appointed.
Lovely. And so on that note, I'm not sure if this would be best directed to Joanna or yourself, but to buy property in Portugal, would you need a Portuguese bank account?
So from a currency point of view, if I answer that bit first before Joanna goes and answers her bit, you don't need an account abroad to buy currency. So if you're buying in Portugal, don't need a Portuguese bank account set up for you to have an engagement with a currency specialist. We can buy your euros for you and we can hold them here for you. If you're locking in the exchange rate, simply you pay 10% to us at the time you lock the exchange rate in, and you'd pay the other 90% in 3 months' time when you go on to complete. If you want to send all the pounds to us and you want us to hold the euros for you until you are due to complete, we can do that as well. So really, there is no need for us to have a Portuguese bank account open until nearer to your completion. And we can then make the transfer of euros to your solicitor, to your bank account, wherever it is that it needs to go, as instructed by your solicitor.
Yeah, that's right, Jack. You don't need a Portuguese bank account. Actually, as part of our job and the conveyancing process, we as the lawyers and our law firm has a separate account, which is a client account, exclusively dedicated to receive clients' funds, and where all clients, movements, whether it is withdrawal of bank drafts to pay the price due on completion, to pay the deposits, to pay all the taxes. So we do manage all the financing related to the property purchase itself. We do have clients asking to open their own bank accounts, and we can also assist with that. It is advisable in certain cases, but for very simple, practical reasons. They will need to have water and electricity and internet services at home, and it's far much simpler just to have them being paid under a direct debit order every month, so they are not worried of receiving the monthly bills and doing all the payments. But depending on the properties, for example, there are already resorts and property managers doing also this service. So the owners don't have to pay these services themselves. And in those cases, not a Portuguese bank account is no longer necessary. Okay, just for a simple, just for the fact of owning a property or buying a property, you don't need it.
Fab. Thank you, Joanna. Thanks for confirming that. So kind of on a similar topic, Jack, is there any way Smart can help with ongoing payments for overseas homes? So I know a lot of our buyers are looking to buy a second home, so there'll be ongoing bills to pay, even if they're not living there full time.
Yeah, good question. I was actually looking at some of this morning with clients that were using us sort of 10, 15 years ago that are still using us today. And it's excellent to see that they are still coming back to use us and the ongoing service that we're able to provide them. So absolutely. So when you're living overseas or using it as a holiday home, the chances are you're going to have some need for regular transfers, whether that's pension transfers, paying off your mortgage, living costs, utility bills, whatever it may be. We can help with that. There's a couple of ways that you can choose to do that. So you can use our app or online platform to manage it as and when you see fitting. So you can log in and book in some euros to move across your Portuguese bank account, and you can manage that as and when you need to. You can choose to use the regular payment plan. So a regular payment plan enables you to create a standing order with your bank to us, and we do the same from us to you. So typically on the 1st of each month, you may choose to send us £500 to cover your mortgage over in Portugal. And we can then do exactly the same thing where we receive the money automatically and automatically create a contract into euros and send those euros on. Now, your decision is whether you want to fix that exchange rate in for up to a year, so you know exactly how many pounds you're sending us each month, or you create it as a variable exchange rate, so you get a different amount of euros arrive in your bank each month with exchange rates fluctuating up and down. But again, that's something that your account manager will talk you through at the time you're needing one of them.
Okay, fab. Jack, we actually already have a question for you. So Eric's asking, how much does it cost to use a currency exchange specialist?
Yeah, hi Eric, thanks very much for the question. So it doesn't cost anything to use us. We don't charge a fee for the service, which again, I know sounds quite strange. So let me explain. We make our money a very similar way to how a bank make their money. We buy our money from the interbank market. We buy about £3 billion worth of currency a year, which means that we can buy currency at a much higher exchange rate than you or I can buy it going into a bank. Now, Smart Currency make their business because we have a rate at which we buy it at, and we have a rate marginally lower than that, which is where we sell it at. And that margin in between is where we make our money as a business. So it's happening without you having to pay a fee or a cost to the service. It's happening in the background there. And the reason why we're able to offer much better exchange rates than a bank is because although we make our money the same way, our margins are much, much smaller than if you're using a bank, which is how you make a saving on the exchange rate using us. And it's because of the sheer volume that we're buying each year.
Fab, thank you, Jack. And then just to wrap up, can you summarise why people should seek financial advice when moving to Portugal, and when you think the best point in time to do this is on their buying journey?
Yeah, best time to speak to ourselves is before you're going on your viewing trips. So ideally, when you've got the idea in your mind that you want to be buying or moving over to Portugal, and having a conversation with ourselves, we can then understand exactly what it is you're looking to do, the timeframes you're looking to work towards, and how you want to manage your currency. What I always say to clients is that before you go on a viewing trip, it is absolutely critical that you have planned. Obviously, you've got your estate agent, your Olive Home sitting there ready to show you around properties. You've got Joanna, you've got your lawyer there ready to go as well. But critically, you've got your currency exchange plan in place as well. You've spoken to your account manager, and you know that the moment you have an offer accepted, you are aware that you're then going to be exposed to currency risk, and you've got a plan in place with your account manager to tackle that in whichever way you see fitting for your personal circumstances. So yeah, before you go on your viewing trip is the right time to get in touch with us.
Oh, thanks, Jack. I'm going to kind of segue into Jamie now. So Jack mentioned a viewing trip. So Jamie, how do you recommend a viewing trip to your clients?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. What we like to do is get as much information from the potential buyers before they arrive here in the Algarve, because the more information we can gather, the more we can focus the tour, look at specific must-haves, look at the areas that suit, see what kind of things tick their boxes. And then from there on, so we like to try and do a Zoom call, certainly a phone call beforehand. Then we do a Zoom. I think most people are quite comfortable these days doing a Zoom call or a Teams meeting, and then we kind of get a good focus of what's required, and we'll then narrow it down to some properties to see, depending on how long the client is coming over for, and we'll look at all the areas, and during the tour we highlight things such as restaurants, the golf courses, the nice areas to be in, where's good investment, where's solid, all the different things that are important to people when they buy either a home here for permanent living or as a holiday home, as an investment. So it's very important to get all that information beforehand, and it's helpful to then focus the tour when people come over.
Yeah, definitely. So for buyers looking to buy property in Portugal, how important would you say it is that they know where they want to buy before speaking to you?
Well, I think a lot of it does come out in the wash during the tour, because the main thing to find out is what is important to people. Some people want to be near the beach, some people want to be near the golf courses, some people prefer to be a bit more rural. So it's finding that information out first, and then being able to then focus the tour on those things that are important to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And do you have any advice for buyers in Portugal?
Yeah, get here as quick as you can. It's been a very, very busy time over the last sort of 2 years, really, and there's been a lot of demand for Portugal. There's a lot of eyes and ears on the Portuguese market at the moment. There's some great articles in the New York Times and Forbes magazine highlighting Portugal as a great place to invest. It's one of the safest countries in the world. It's got wonderful climate. Lots of different eyes and ears, and more specifically the American and Canadian market looking at Portugal now as well. So it's a brand new set of eyes. It's not just the traditional North European countries which are looking to invest in Portugal. It's a brand new set now. We've got a direct flight from Toronto into Faro Airport. There's talk of other ones coming as well. So it's quite it's get here. If you're looking to invest, now's the time to get over before all the stock's gone.
Yeah, definitely. So obviously we've got buyers coming from all over the world now. Would you say there's more popular areas for expats?
I think there is. I mean, the Algarve obviously is very, very popular due to its weather and it's slightly different weather to different areas of Portugal. There is little pockets of expats, and some people don't want to be in an expat community. They want to immerse themselves in the local culture as well. So again, it goes back to finding out what the clients want and where they want to be. But certainly if it's a holiday home and if it's a home for an investment, then it's always good to look at areas that aren't too far away from the airport. That actually is important to some people. You know, when you land, the last thing you want to do is be traveling for 2 hours, 3 hours away from the airport. So anything within an hour of the airport is advisable if you're looking to buy properties, then rent out.
Yeah, I know that's definitely like a concern for holiday home buyers. You obviously don't want to be traveling extra hours on top of your flight.
Exactly.
So we've had a couple of questions that I think you could answer. Guy has never been to Portugal, but he's looking to live somewhere not too hot and not too cold. I will say Portugal has a much better climate than here, so I'm sure you're gonna be much better there. But I'll pass over to Jamie.
Okay, so thank you for your question, Guy. It's related to obviously working. A lot of people are working here now. There is like a digital nomad visa here now, so there's a lot of people coming here to work and work digitally. So obviously, high-speed internet is very important, and that's been recognised. And there's a few good companies here that are able to fit those into locations. If it's very rural, it's a little bit harder, but there is also options for that now as well. So a very good place to be working from, and hence that's why so many people are doing that.
Yeah, definitely. I know a lot of places.
Regarding the weather, my mobile says 27 degrees. If that helps.
Don't worry.
It's fine.
I know a lot of like cities in Portugal, especially Porto and Lisbon, have quite a few what's the word, like co-working spaces. Is that limited to cities, or is that like across Portugal?
Is that to me? Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
Let's just check it. Yeah, there's a few areas where you can do that. Obviously, it's more common in the cities, but there is certainly business centres popping up all over the place. That, for example, just not too far away from here, we've got Regis is here, which is a business centre for people to go and use those spaces and rent by the hour or rent for the day, whatever. So those options are here as well now.
Mm-hmm. Great, that's great. And in terms of prices in Portugal, I know everywhere's kind of having a bit of a surge at the moment. What can you tell us about average prices, if that's such a thing?
Yeah, again, it depends on the area. You know, there's and what type of property. Prices have gone up significantly in the last 2 years, and we're not really seeing any decline. Just purely simple economics. High demand and low supply means that there is an impact on prices. There's all the areas of the whole country have seen price increases. So it's not specific to one particular area, but it's certainly had an impact on the market. And yeah, it's got no signs of slowing up the way demand is at the moment.
Yeah, I feel like it's in super high demand Portugal at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly right.
So if you're looking to buy in the Algarve, what do you think a typical budget would look like?
Well, again, it depends on what the clients are looking for. There's clients coming in, you know, looking for 2-bedroom, 1-bedroom apartments, anything from townhouses to villas. There's a very, you know, there's lots of options in terms of types of property. And then when things do come to the market, they tend to not hang around too long. So my advice to people would be to certainly be prepared, have your currency exchange in place, power of attorney with your lawyer done, with Joanna, for example, and have all that in place so that you can act very quickly when you do find something you like. Because hanging around, unfortunately, we've seen too many people miss out, and that does happen quite a bit.
Okay, cool. Just in terms of mentioning budget, Jack, is Smart able to help anyone with their budgets if they're not sure on what that is?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's part of the introductory call you have with your account manager to go through budgets and understand what sort of price properties you're looking at so far, how many pounds you currently have, and how realistic that is, and also how much market movement would it take to see that budget become under some sort of threat with the markets dropping. So, yeah, that's exactly what we're here to do, is help with budgeting.
Oh, lovely. Thank you. Joanna, I think we've lost your video, but can we still hear you?
I can see you very well.
Okay, fab. So
You see me?
I can't see you, but I can still hear you fine, so don't worry. So what are the main tax considerations for someone looking to move to Portugal?
Well, in terms of, do you mean for the property purchase?
Yeah, for buyers in Portugal.
Yes, for buyers. Okay, so this comes along with the budget and the previous question you were asking. So in terms of fixed taxes and fixed costs for when buying a property, we always have, on average, and there are a few exceptions, but very rarely applicable, of property transfer tax and stamp duty. The property transfer tax is usually progressive for properties that are, for housing purposes, for habitation. So this can, for example, a property above or in the range of 500,000 will pay on average 6.5% of property tax plus 0.8% of stamp duty. Okay, there is always a third person in a deal, which is the state, and the tax office taking the piece of the cake. So it comes, it's a heavy tax burden here. The property, this tax is progressive, but for example, if you are talking about a plot of land, the rate will be different. If you're talking about a property that is not licensed for habitation, the rate will be different. So I'm just giving you very, common or average figures. As Jamie was saying, and Jack, in terms of budgeting, it's really important, in my opinion, to think in the worst case scenario. So the maximum amount you can spend, and you should budget. And we always give this percentage to clients, is you should budget approximately 10% of the property purchase price of the overall transaction costs. And this is usually the worst case scenario, on average, I can say that it never reaches that percentage, but it depends. If you're talking about different registrations, different deeds, it can get a bit more complicated and therefore a bit more expensive. When you're budgeting, when you're preparing your viewing trip to Portugal, if you count on this 10%, you'll be covered and you will know that you won't lose the property if you made your calculations well. In terms of taxation in other fields, so we were talking about digital nomads, people moving to Portugal. I always like to do this disclaimer. Bear in mind that if you're planning to buy a property or not even buying, renting, or if you're planning to move to Portugal and become a Portuguese resident, that will have tax implications. You will probably become a Portuguese tax resident, and that will trigger tax power for the Portuguese state to levy tax on your income worldwide. Then there will eventually be tax incentives like the non-habitual resident scheme, which is very well known and exists for at least since 2009. And there will be also double taxation treaties applicable to avoid double taxation between Portugal and the other countries where your income comes from. But bear this in mind that when you're doing such a move, it can be very romantic, but don't forget that you have tax. You also have to take care of your tax planning. which we are also very happy to assist when, taking care of a full relocation process, which may usually and commonly includes a property purchase. Indeed. I don't know if you can see me now.
I can't know. Apologies. It's okay. We can hear you absolutely perfectly, so don't worry. We saw that you looked lovely at the start, so don't worry. So, Joanna, can you explain to me and our viewers the legal process of buying a property? Like, how do you actually go about it?
Sure. So the legal process, I will talk about the normal process. Jamie will also experience that not all the processes are the same. So usually when there is an offer accepted, it is common a reservation form or a letter of intent signed by both. I'm hearing with some sound in the background, not sure if it's me. Okay, I'll go ahead. So the reservation form, it's common in any process. What we do advise is to avoid non-refundable payments on a reservation status, on the reservation stage, because there is no legal due diligence made at that time, both on the asset and the vendor party. So it's just a sign of good faith and goodwill of doing this transaction and securing the terms and conditions agreed between both parties. But this is not mandatory. We've been assisting many clients without any who haven't signed any reservation form, but this is the common practice. Then we will have, a few days or weeks to sign a promissory note or promissory contract of purchase and sale, where it's usually, let's say we are exchanging contracts, and where the commitment of both parties is much serious. And why? Because at least here in Portugal works like this. The buying party will be paying a non-refundable deposit. Usually this deposit is a percentage of the purchase price agreed, varying from 10 to 30% on average. It can be different because it's always on parties' autonomy. So the parties can agree on the deposit they want. I've had clients paying 50% deposit. I had clients paying 5%. So it really depends. The important thing to note, though, is that this deposit is usually non-refundable, except, say, for in very specific circumstances. So it's important to have all the legal and technical due diligence carried out beforehand. And as Jamie was saying, have your lawyers prepared to act once you have your offer accepted, so they can start this process immediately and release a draft contract for analysis of the selling party. Okay. And then we will be preparing completion. Completion and the deadline to complete will vary again on the parties. We have vendors who are living on a permanent basis in the properties they are selling, so they will need a bit more time to move. We have vendors who need to sell that property to buy another one where they're moving to. So, and then we have properties who are in just, holiday homes ready to move in. So it will really depend on the parties' conditions, and also on one extra aspect, which is if there is a mortgage being raised in Portugal as well. That usually is a side process, which your solicitors will also be involved in revising all the loan and mortgage, and then signing the mortgage deeds along with the property purchase and sale. But as they are parallel, it's normal that the mortgage will somehow impact the timeline of the property purchase. Okay. So if it's a cash purchase, there is no bank involved, no financing, and we can complete in 2 or 3 weeks if needed. I've completed in 1 week if needed, but it really depends on the specific transaction we are talking about. Okay, and then on completion, we will make sure all the conditions precedent were met. If there is any retainer to be insured, we will also take care of the retainer, in the sense that any amount of the price due that may be retained to be paid only after the fulfillment of a certain condition. So it's always very tailor-made on a case-by-case analysis. And I think last but not least, it's just registrations of all the acquisition and making sure the ownership is duly registered on client's name and the property documentation is updated. So everybody knows that you are the new owner of that property.
Okay, fab. Thanks, Joanna. That was super detailed. I have a couple of questions that you might be able to help with. So Gregory is an Indian resident working in Africa. He's asking, is it possible for him to buy an apartment in Portugal?
Excuse me, just the client situation is working in Africa. And where is from?
He's from India.
India, working in Africa, and wants to know if there is any limitation on buying in Portugal. No, absolutely not. Where, Portugal doesn't have any restrictions on nationality, origin, as to who may or not invest in Portugal. And we do have clients from all over the world, including from India, South Africa, Mozambique, etc., investing here. And sometimes we do take care of everything remotely. So clients don't even come to Portugal, or only come for this viewing trip where they have an offer accepted. They grant us their powers of attorney, and then we'll take care of everything from then onwards.
Fabulous, thanks. I have another question for you. Duarte, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. He has a friend who purchased a home in Portugal 5 years ago, who was exempt from paying land transfer fees and property taxes for 7 years. Do you know if this incentive still exists?
Property taxes, annual property tax, probably it's the council tax. Yes, this incentive exists for rehabilitation purposes. So people buying properties in areas that suffered a major refurbishment, usually in old downtown centers. And it was a mechanism that was created to incentive developers and private investors refurbishing, all the old properties that the government didn't have funds to do. And one of the incentives is really those who buy those properties. They're not exempt, so they are entitled to a refund on the property transfer tax, as long as they allocate those properties for their permanent habitation. So it's not the right incentive for someone buying a holiday home, because it's not moving the tax, that tax residency I was talking about. It's not becoming a Portuguese resident and registering the permanent habitation as the primary habitation in that property. And then there is also a side incentive, which is an exemption of annual property tax, which can be then extended until it reaches the 7 years. So the maximum amount will be really the 7 years of council tax and the transfer tax reimbursement. But the stamp duty, for example, the 0.8 stamp duty I was talking initially, that is not subject to reimbursement.
Thank you, Joanna. We have another question about the golden visa, which I believe Portugal is calling an end to. So Steve asks, what's the current golden visa status for residential properties, including zoning?
Including
zoning.
Zoning.
I'm not entirely sure what that is.
But the areas where the properties are located, probably. Okay.
Oh, yes.
I will assume so, because that's the restriction that is mainly related to golden visa. So the golden visa, the government really announced the end of the golden visa. That is yet to be approved. So at the moment, anyone willing to get a golden visa is able to. We are having a lot of demands because clients want to make sure they can get their golden visas before the law amendment. And the current scenario is still habitational, so properties for habitation purposes that are located in the coastal area, including Lisbon and the Algarve, do not qualify for the golden visa. Okay, so you will have to go with a property that, you know, a minimum amount of investment qualifies for the golden visa. We will have to go a little bit to the center, so to the an interior part of the country, or to the islands, Azores and Madeira. Okay. Then we have some properties that, although they are located in the coastal area, they are not licensed for habitation purposes, but they do have accommodation facilities, and we are talking about of properties that are part of resorts. Okay, can you hear me well?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
okay.
Can hear you. Sorry, I was on mute.
I know the camera is not working, so I'm afraid that the micro stopped working too. So just warn me, or
You're fine.
some sign if you can't hear me.
You're fine.
So we do have clients investing in resorts all over, all over the Algarve and Lisbon and the coastal area, because although the properties are located in this coastal area, they are not licensed for habitation purposes. So they can still use those real estate investments to qualify for a golden visa. Other than this, any commercial or non-housing property in any part of the country will qualify for the golden visa, as long as it meets the minimum amounts of investment. Okay, the average is the 500,000. There are some exceptions, namely some reductions depending on the areas. Okay, for rural areas, they can be reduced. What's about to come? And it's very curious because we will release in the coming, I think tomorrow or Monday, the latest, in our website and social media, we will release a summary of 16 pages more or less of the yet to come more housing program, or Mais Habitação program, where the golden visa amendments are included, and many other amendments. So I invite you to read and to send us any questions you may have on that. But about the golden visa, it's still yet to be defined whether the government will end the whole program, or if it will definitely eliminate the real estate category of investment that is eligible for golden visa. Because if the problem here is really the accommodation and housing of Portuguese families and Portuguese residents, there are many other ways of getting golden visas which are purely financial investment. So they are not necessarily related to the housing problem that Portugal is facing right now. So there is still a big question mark on this, whether the program will definitely disappear or not. Mm-hmm. For the real estate, it will certainly end. Those who already have golden visas or have applied, and that's why we have clients rushing to do it, or have applied for golden visas, will have their golden visas safe. So they won't be capped. They will maintain them. Eventually they will be converted in other residence permits, like residence permits for entrepreneurials, or more similar to investment purposes, which is a golden visa. It's a residence permit for investors. But the most important aspect, which is what was a big relief, at least to me when I knew it, is the short periods of stay. We are talking about 1 week in the first year and 2 weeks maximum of mandatory stay, mandatory presence in the country to maintain the residence permit. They will be honored. So although the residence permit, the golden visa, will disappear, those who already have applied or had a golden visa, they can still honor only this minimum period of stay, because this is the main advantage of a golden visa comparing to other traditional visas like the D7, which I think all of you have heard, or the digital nomad. These traditional visas are, in terms of effective presence in the country, more demanding, because they are designed for people that effectively want to stay and reside in the country. So for someone that only has a holiday home here and wants to have, a free residence permit to travel more easily throughout the Schengen area, or eventually later on have Portuguese nationality, those people don't want to move their tax residency to Portugal, don't want to have all the tax implications and changing their lives to Portugal, at least not now. Maybe later on in their retirement, they will consider. But that was the most, the mainly concern we had before this information, all this boom of legal amendments was clear. Okay. So I know it's a lot of information, and the golden visa is, we would have to do a full webinar only on golden visas, but pardon me if it wasn't clear. But if you have any queries, please feel free to email and we will schedule a meeting personally. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Joanna. Jamie, is Olive Homes still able to help buyers find golden visa eligible properties?
Yes, we can. Yes, there is still options out there. There's resorts that are being purpose-built that have a touristic license. Those are eligible for in low densilated population areas. They're still eligible for that. There is certain resorts, for example, just in Quinta do Lago, for example, there's the Wyndham Resort, which allows you to buy the property, and then you can you have to then rent it back to the resort for the rest of the year. But you can use it for 12 weeks yourself, and because it's got a touristic license, that still makes you eligible for the golden visa for the time being. As we say, there are changes happening, but for the time being, that all works well, and it's in a resort that's it's all catered for. You've got all your facilities on site. You are only restricted to just using your property itself for 12 weeks by entering into the scheme that they've got there. There are other options of buying land with ruins on and developing those. It's another way of getting golden visa as well. But the golden visa actually in its original format finished on 31st December 2021. So it's just gone to a new phase, and where that ends up is still in debate.
Oh, thank you. I have a question for you. So Charlotte's asking, can you buy a piece of land and put a mobile lodge on it rather than build?
There are people that have done that. I think Joanna's probably better qualified to answer that in terms of its legality.
Legality.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can, but the fact that you there is always a but. I'm sorry, lawyers are always like this. The fact that you have a movable property or a caravan in a piece of land does not away you from having permission, licensing from the council. So any permanent or any connection to the land that requires water and sewage will always require licensing from the council. So if it's something that is meant to be temporary, like caravanning in a piece of land that you own, but for a very short period of time, I would say the risk is minimum. There is a contingency, but I doubt you will be fined for that. But on a permanent basis, as a way of having a property to live, that it will require, licensing from the council where the plot is located.
Okay. And I have another question just popped in. How long do you have to rent or buy a property before you can qualify for the D7 visa? I believe D7 is the retirement one. Is that right?
Yeah. Not only for retirees, it's for passive income earners. So people, even during their working life, but if they have rental income, financial income, all those sources of passive income, they can apply for D7 as long as they meet the minimum amounts required. The D7, it's because it's a residence visa. You are applying for a visa that is meant to last for at least 12 months. So it will be valid for 2 years at the initial temporary visa. But the difference between a residence and a temporary visa is this duration of more or less than 12 months. So we do recommend our clients to have in place already to enter into force a lease agreement for at least 12 months. It's not that you have to lease and have the property, the lease in place and paying rents before applying for the D7. I think that was kind of the way or the tone the question was directed. You don't need it. You need to have a proof of accommodation, a place to stay in Portugal, because you're saying the Portuguese embassy that you will become a resident in Portugal. So they don't want homeless people here. And that's why you need to prove you have accommodation for at least 12 months. Okay.
Oh, thanks for confirming, Joanna. Jack, if I can come back to you. We have a watcher who lives in Canada, and he's asking, so if he's doing a currency exchange with you guys, does he have to buy the funds in pounds, or do you exchange Canadian dollar?
Yeah, we can just pounds really, except for a small portion of. So if you're in Canada, if you're based in Canada, you're buying a property in Portugal, you've got to do a Canadian dollar to euro exchange, which we can facilitate. So you're sending Canadian dollars into our Canadian dollar account. We'll be sending euros onto your solicitor or account in Portugal once you set that up. So yeah, more than happy to do that. Canadian dollars into euros, and we can do it for nationalities and countries around the world. If you have any particular currency, then ask you.
I think you're a little bit fuzzy there, but Duarte, Jack did confirm that yes, Smart does transfer from Canadian dollar into lots of other different currencies. I believe they trade in most of the main, your most popular currencies: US dollar, Canadian dollar, New Zealand dollar, all the dollars. On that point, Jack. What was my question? If you're exchanging currency as a citizen outside the UK, are there any additional checks or steps in the process?
Yeah, so with smart currency, if you're based in the UK, you might be fortunate enough that you won't have to buy proof of ID and put up your account. We run a soft check in the ground basically confirm you are who you say you are, and you've been at address you said you're around for a certain amount of time. And you're outside the UK, then we will need to prove address and proof ID from you in order for you to be able to be one of our customers. Part of our regulations and authorizations that we have to act as a business.
You will receive all the contact details for our experts at the end of this, should you wish to ask any more questions. So can I ask, this is an open question, I'll come to Jamie first. What are the common pitfalls of people buying in Portugal from a property point of view that you could advise on? You're on mute, Jamie.
There we go. Sorry, on mute. So yes, it's a journey that you go on, and you go through highs and lows of looking at properties, what you like, what you don't like, and it narrows the filters down. Where people have been, where they've missed out is where they've basically not acted quick enough, and someone else has swooped in and made an offer on the property and it's been accepted. So the advice that we would give is come with an open mind when you're looking to view, and then when you start discovering where you want to be and what you want and what's right for you and your family, then be decisive on what you want. And by doing a reservation with your lawyer, like with Joanna, then putting all the processes in place, then you can act quickly and get the property of your dreams.
Yeah, definitely. With such high demand in Portugal at the moment, so if you like it, lock it in.
Correct.
Joanna, what about you from a legal?
Yes, I have another contribution. Probably Jamie has also witnessed this several times during his experience. But do have clients selling in the UK or abroad. I'm talking about the UK. It's very common. And counting on the funds, the property sale abroad, to then finance the purchase in Portugal. From what I know, I don't have a background in the UK, but I understand sale until it's finally and finished and completed, the buying part can pull out. So we did have many clients starting processes, signing promissory contracts, saying, "No, Joanna, this is confirmed. We are selling our house. This is due till the end of this year, so we can be, changing and completing in Portugal a few weeks later, just arranging, exchanging funds with our FX agents, etc." And then suddenly, the sale didn't happen. As I mentioned earlier, if we go on to a promissory contract in Portugal, the buying party is paying on the benefit. And it's rare, or I understand why it's rare, but no selling party will accept the condition, the completion here in Portugal, to the sale of the property. So it's a risk that the buying party has to manage. So if you have a plan B, bridge loan, or have a mortgage approved in Portugal, if in between you are selling your property in the UK and buying in Portugal, that is really important. And please don't hide your solicitor that you are counting on those funds to complete in Portugal, because then they only know that later on. Sometimes it's too late. So funding and bearing in mind these differences between the systems where you're selling and buying, it's really important, because you don't want to risk 10 or 20% of property worth 160,000 because you failed to complete on time, or we don't need to, or we don't want to have to renegotiate with the selling party an extension of the deadline to complete, because the selling party also counted on the deadline to complete to use the funds of the sale for another property, and so on. So everybody does his or her plans, and then there is a change here in between because something went wrong. Okay, so in terms of budgeting and financing and the structure of the financing of the purchase is really, really important. The other thing I would say, but this is something that then your lawyers will tell, it's really thinking about the best structure, whether you're buying through a company, where you're buying in your children's name, whether, if you want to make some succession planning on the investment you're doing in Portugal, whether you're buying a property to rent and as a pure investment, to rent on a long or a short-term basis, that is all important to consider, and that is all questions that if your solicitor don't ask, please suspect, because they're really important.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Joanna. And over to Jack.
Yeah, I've been told by my camera's off, so I hope you can hear me okay still.
Yeah, you're much better now.
From our side of perfect. Most important thing from our side is planning. Make sure you're prepared. So make sure you've got your contacts lined up. You've got your estate agent, your solicitor, and you've got your currency provider in place with a plan together. Mentioned earlier about risk management, making sure you know which route you're going to go once you have your offer accepted, because it becomes very real at that point. You've got a lot going on, a lot of complexities around the contracts and everything else. You need to make sure you know what you're going to do once you're at that point. If you don't, that's normally the biggest pitfall and biggest sort of downfall that we see with people.
Yeah, it's a really good point, actually, Jack. Having your contacts, that's literally why we run these webinars. Being able to introduce you as buyers to trusted services like Olive Homes, Matlaw, and Smart Currency, it just gives you that extra confidence that you need to buy safely and securely. So saying that, we are coming up to our time. I'd like to say thanks to all our experts for your insightful tips and advice. Thanks to our viewers for watching this session. Before we finish, I would like to invite you to leave us a review on Trustpilot if you found this remotely useful. We do strongly recommend you get in touch with all our experts directly to discuss your requirements in detail, and we'll be in touch with their details shortly. We do have other various resources available to help you with your buying journey, including free guides to download and other webinar recordings on demand. So just take a look at our Your Overseas Home website, and thanks again. Happy property hunting. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Rosie.
Thanks, Jamie.
Thanks, Rosie.
Bye.
All right.